A squad of peacekeepers with rainbow-painted AR-15s went around the house to the backyard, and Griggs stood with the firing squad on the front porch. Commandant Bell sat in the safety of the bulletproof SUV, the one that said, "Love Brigade, the hate stops here." They could hear the Chewbacca squeals of chairs scooted back and saw shadows moving hurriedly across the closed drapes. The sight gave Bell a grim satisfaction, and Griggs and the boys a sinking feeling of dread. A bright light flashed on in the back, the motion detector lamps bathing the peacekeepers in white and freezing them in their tracks. They squinted their eyes so tight that it bared their teeth, and they shielded their faces with upraised palms. Hushmand ushered the two boys into the kitchen, opening a small closet and swatting aside the broom and mop that leaned in the corner. A false wall slid away, exposing a narrow secret passageway. It was a hasty renovation, just sheetrock in front of an original wall, making the bedroom behind the kitchen a little bit smaller, giving someone a place to hide. Esmeralda grabbed their plates and forks, wincing when they clattered together, and hid them all in the trash instead of just putting them in the sink. The children watched with wide-eyed terror, some frozen, having one cheek bulging with unswallowed food. When everything was settled, Hushmand and his wife shared a hard, tense look, drawing strength from one another, and counted down silently from 3 with nods of their heads. 3, 2, and eye contact, nod, showtime. They opened the door, reminding themselves not to smile falsely like they did in the movies. No happy surprise that would give them away. They opened with stern, no-nonsense faces as if they were being disturbed, scowling at the 5 on their porch and the insult they represented. "Yes?" Professor Nightingale, part-time referee, asked. "You don't look happy to see us," Griggs said, "because that's what cops on TV said to their suspect." "Am I supposed to be? Do you make social calls with guns at night? What's this all about? Where's Shaniqua?" "She's behind me, watching from the car, so make this look good." The boys all looked at each other, as if wondering if that was what they really heard. Esmeralda's lips parted in surprise, then quickly tightened again. "We're going to push our way in," Griggs said, "because if we don't, the ones in the backyard will." Hushmand hesitated, then nodded. The peacekeeper looked at the firing squad beside him. "Boys," he said quietly, "your lives depend on this." They swallowed hard, mustered some drama-class bravado they didn't feel, and made a show of forcing the couple back into their house. Inside the SUV, Commandant Bell dug an orange cheese doodle out of a rustling bag with her long-nailed fingers and asked, "What kind of name is Hushmand anyway?" punctuated with a crunch. Standing ramrod straight inside the passageway, not daring to move or even relax, Kevin and Danny looked at the drywall and held their breath. They heard the commotion and the protests of the family and restrained themselves, knowing that if they fell for the ruse, everyone would die, not just them. Kevin fought to control his breathing, make it calm and slow, and Danny heard him and did the same. They fell into a rhythm, and while Kevin felt a wall go up between them, he knew that he couldn't keep it up. They were in this mess because he knew he was fooling himself. There was more danger in him trying to keep up the facade they both knew was fake. He agonized more in that moment over the boy next to him than the murderers in the house, thinking, "Evil thoughts, get out of my head," and he shut his eyes tight. But Debbie was there, so he opened them again and risked all in a daring move, launching himself across a distance of 1,000 miles in just an inch of space, and touched Danny's hand with his. He felt Danny's hand flinch, and it made him freeze in terror that they would be heard in the walls and shot. That fear and uncertainty lasted 100 years in 1 second, until his heart leaped at the feeling of Danny's warm hand creeping back to touch his, their fingers curling together and uniting to find courage in that dark moment. Then cold talons gripped the throats when they heard Jeremy's voice through the wall. "Kevin?" The other boys looked at Jeremy, holding their Winchesters pointed at nothing away from the children. Kevin's best friend cleared his throat and said in a wavering voice, "We had to come here, okay? We don't want to be here. We're behind you 100%, so let's just get that out of the way." Griggs then spoke up. "Nobody knows you're here. They only know your phones are here, but that doesn't mean anything. What I'm thinking, it's all a big misunderstanding. You threw your phones away back at the promenade because you knew they were giving away your location. These kids here," he indicated the terrified children at the dinner table, "found your phones on the ground and brought them home. If I can get those phones and take them outside to the commandant, that can explain why they led us here, and we'll leave." There was a pregnant pause, so quiet that all anyone could hear was the ringing in their ears, while everyone debated whether this was a trick to get them to admit the boys were there. If they all just kept quiet and called their bluff, the bad guys would leave. Or maybe there was some truth to it. Maybe the peacekeepers really were on their side, but how to slip the phones out where they could be seen without giving away the hiding place? And how could they delete all their stuff so they didn't let any important info fall into the state's hands? And what would they do without their phones? That was the biggest reason not to do it. They wouldn't have their phones. Clock's ticking, guys, Greg said. Come on, Kevin, Jeremy insisted. If we don't walk out of here with the phones, they're going to know something's up. It's a trick, Danny whispered. They can't really see our phones. They just want us to give ourselves up. How did they know to come here then? Kevin asked. I bet they're going to every house saying the same thing. There's a lot of houses between the park and here. They didn't go to all of them first. They started with this one. I just don't trust them. I've known them my whole life. Yeah, and you're the enemy. Kevin let go of Danny's hand and the wall went up between them. Feeling the immense pressure of his family's lives in his hands, Hushman called out, I think I saw 2 phones in the broom closet, telling them as plainly as he could to throw the stupid phones down the passageway to the secret door where he could find them. Kevin quietly stepped sideways toward the exit, and Danny reached out to grab his sash, clinking his metal together. Kevin tried to pull himself away, and Danny squeezed tighter, trying to hold him still. The scuffing of their shoes in the dust on the floor was the loudest sound they'd ever heard, and that made them pull against one another more desperately until they slipped and bumped into the drywall. All eyes outside went to the sound, and their hearts sank as they heard the quiet struggle. Must be rats, Hushman said, knowing no one believed him, knowing he was doomed. They'll kill us, goddammit! Danny hissed, his voice coming through the wall, and Esmeralda withered, leaning back heavily to sit on the corner of the dining table and make all the drinking glasses wobble. Glancing at the sliding glass doors that led to the backyard, Griggs saw the peacekeepers getting ready to enter. He went gingerly up to the wall that was rattling and knocked on it. The boys inside froze, and Griggs kept knocking, not as if on a door, hoping someone would answer, but to find where the 2x4 studs were, 16 inches on center. When he was sure he wouldn't hit a stud, and hoped he wouldn't crack one of the boys in the head, he wound back his rifle and slammed the butt of it through the drywall. The boys inside flinched, scrunching their eyes tight shut against the dust and gravel. Outside, a peacekeeper was reaching for the door. Blinking, Danny saw a hand reach in through the hole in the wall, like Professor Nightingale reaching into the car for the gun earlier, and his fingers snapped twice, the palm then lying flat expectantly. He blinked some more, and jostled Kevin's arm to make him look. Kevin's face was gray with dust, and he grimaced and spat, then looked and froze. The sliding glass door was locked. The peacekeeper looked over his shoulder at the others, standing bathed in white light, and they gestured to, yeah, go ahead. He turned back to the glass, rounded his shoulders, and two-handed his rainbow-colored AR-15. Hushman hurried over to the door, frantically waving his hands. No, wait! He pantomimed the lock of the door being broken, and it being a pain in the neck to open it, but no, don't break it. They looked at him, squinting, barely able to see him past their own reflections. The one who was going to bash his way in set his rifle down, cupped his hands around his eyes, and leaned in to peer through the glass. Give, Griggs said through his teeth, me the phones.